The Dark Knight Rises fucking pissed me off. Or TDKR as it's called on Twitter. And as I'll refer to it from now on. Because it doesn't deserve a logical sounding title. Yes, I'm referring to The Dark Knight Rises as a logical sounding title. Because it would have worked if the film had earned it. The Dark Knight part or the Rises part. It earns neither. And I am going to get into spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the film, don't see it. Don't just ignore this video and don't ever see it. TDKR picks up with Gotham 8 years later. There's no more crime. There's no more Batman. Boring. Remember that promise made at the end of The Dark Knight? You'll hunt me. You'll condemn me. You'll set the dogs on me. That sounded so awesome. But yeah, none of that happens. Instead, Bruce Wayne cowers away in his mansion for several years, whines about his girlfriend who died 8 years ago, and somewhere across these 8 years of doing nothing, it never occurs to him to, I don't know, kill himself. I know that's dark, but that is legitimately what will probably happen in any logical situation. That's one of the worst things that this film does, is it makes the lead character, the lead hero, absolutely, you don't care about him. He goes back to being Batman pretty much to thrill seek, and so that he has like this death wish of something, and at which point I'm just like, I don't care. But we have another movie, so clearly there's another villain to fight. And this time around, that's Bane. Not the Bane in Batman and Robin, that guy was a grunt. In this movie, he is actually also a grunt with a fucking weird voice. It just sounds so weird and odd, and like he's trying to go for what Heath Ledger did with the Joker's Chicago accent. Also, at a point where he's giving one of these speeches and his eyes just go crazy, you realize that none of the voice work matches up with what he's doing physically. Which means they dubbed over his original voice work. I actually realized that if you saw the prologue in front of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol and then saw the prologue in the film, they're different audio, and the first one in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol was actually really good. The first 6 minutes of this film absolutely kicks ass. It doesn't make sense for them to be up in their plane and then they're suddenly crashing down, and all for what, to get this guy? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's still really fun. But what intrigued me was, why is Bane doing this? And it turns out he doesn't really have any motivation. The conflict of this film is a rehash of the conflict in the first film, which was spread pretty thin by the finale as it was. There's a train headed to Wayne Station. It's going to vaporize the entire city's water supply. Yeah, that kind of threw logic out the window. I wanted another individual villain going after his own personal beliefs, which Bane doesn't have any. There's no emotional reason behind what he's doing, he's just doing it. And he's never terribly intimidating either. There's a scene in the sewer in which we see him with his clothes off and we realize, wow, this guy's just fat, and it kind of makes him not intimidating at all. This isn't the Bane that we wanted. Instead, it's just a guy who kills people and breaks people's backs. And even that doesn't take, because in 30 minutes he's back on his feet and fine, whatever. And even worse of all is Gotham. Remember how you cared about the civilians in The Dark Knight? Yeah, you don't in this one. All the civilians are trading apart glib comments that make them absolutely hateable, and you don't really care if they live or die. Weird, because at the beginning of the film, Gotham is a safe place and it doesn't need to be destroyed. So Bane's big master plot is really rather pointless. But hey, we don't care, because we don't care if these people die anyway. The violence is trivialized, it comes in every 5 minutes just to shock you for whatever reason, and it doesn't mean anything. Which is a horrible change after The Dark Knight really terrified us. Hey, let's ban pencils in all public schools, cause that shit is fucking dangerous. In general, it feels like all the characters are absolutely useless in this movie. And Anne Hathaway, who is actually really sexy and really awesome in this movie, completely wasted. She doesn't really hold a purpose in this film besides person who does things. That's all any of these characters are people who do things, not actual characters. And I remember some of them being really dynamic in the past. Take Alfred, for example. In the first 2 films, we got the fact that he had a military background, and he's always been the guy who's been like, Batman has to be this. You have to be this symbol of hope for this city. And in this film, he's just like, you're not Batman anymore, Master Wayne. He regresses into this pathetic wimpy butler who disappears halfway into the film. And that's just not cool. I would have liked it if when Gotham was going to shit, we saw Alfred trying to help with the rescue effort, like the fucking military badass that he used to be before being a butler. But no, he shows up at the end and he's like, I failed you. Morgan Freeman doesn't even play the role of tech guy. He kind of does, but he doesn't really mean anything. And he's always just pointing to Marion Cotillard's character being like, you wanna fuck this girl, you should fuck this girl, you should fuck this girl, fuck this girl, fuck this. Andy Dufresne was my friend. Speaking of Marion Cotillard's character, why does Christopher Nolan always give Marion Cotillard the most convoluted of roles? And in this one, she doesn't really play a purpose that other characters can't already serve. Instead, she makes the person who we think is the main villain throughout the entire film and makes him into a grunt. It takes this guy who wasn't even fighting for his own beliefs and takes away all of his leadership even, and he's not even the main guy anymore. What the fuck? And worst of all, Gary Oldman, Jim Gordon, who was so amazing in the first film and so amazing in the second film. The first two films were grooming him to be the hero that Gotham really deserves. And then JGL comes in and snatches that job away, so whatever. Also, I didn't really buy the fact that he just knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Oh, it's this big secret, and yet this guy just happens to know for some reason. He has no real logic to back up that statement. Gary Oldman is better! And the ending to this film is such a cop-out. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, except that it's the same ending to Sherlock Holmes 2 and House. So what did I like about the film? Hans Zimmer's score is fucking great, and the film doesn't live up to it at all. And the best track of the score, Imagine the Fire, isn't even in the film. And that's another thing. The villain's tagline is "The fire rises." There's no fire in this movie. There's explosions, but that doesn't qualify fire. There's a nuclear bomb because that's what everyone comes up with when they're out of ideas on how to destroy things. Oh hey, here's an idea. Set the city on fire. You wrote in the first fucking 5 minutes of the film. Overall, The Dark Knight Rises is a pathetic and wimpy conclusion to a great franchise. But those are my thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until then, I'm going to sink into the shadows. There, that works. That works.